The following program is brought to you by Whiteman TV and Bruce Telecom.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the current treasurer of the Centre Wellington Chamber of Commerce, and my husband, my son, and I run a dairy farm north of Fergus. So I am a business owner in this community. The Chamber is pleased to host this evening's All Candidates meeting as well. We are now in the active period for the upcoming municipal election. This is a good time to remind everyone that the Chamber is a nonpartisan organization. The Board of Directors and staff do not publicly support or endorse any candidate in any election at any level. The Board does encourage full engagement in the political process and fully encourages all members and stakeholders to get out and vote on October 22nd. So the process for tonight, each candidate drew a number for order of opening statements as they came in the room. They will each be given a 2-minute introduction of themselves and state their platform. Candidates who are acclaimed will be allowed to give an opening statement. They will not be part of the debate, and they will not provide a closing statement. Again, each question, except for those acclaimed, will be having 2-minute closing comments, and that will be in the reverse of their opening comments. So we will start with the mayoral candidates, and the first for opening statements is Kelly Linton.
Awesome to see everybody out here. We should have sold tickets for tonight. Firstly, thanks for everybody for coming out. 2014, I ran for mayor because I'm passionate about this town. I also ran for this job because we need a new leadership style. You need a mayor who would listen to you. I've worked hard to communicate with you. It's not enough for your leaders to listen to the ones who are loudest or the squeakiest. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being loud. That's your basic democratic right. But good leaders need to put in the work to find out what the majority wants. Then you match up our actions and our budgets to these priorities. It's not rocket science, but it's good, accountable government. If you want a mayor who's satisfied with writing speeches about what he believes in, I'm not your guy. I'm motivated at getting things done. After 20 years of experience working with the other municipalities since completing my master's degree in public policy and administration way back in 1995, I've helped many other cities and towns across Canada become efficient, effective, and more customer-focused. I have firsthand knowledge of what works and what doesn't work. And I know citizens everywhere, including here, have grown tired of politics. Politicians who play on our fears and tell us what they think that they want to hear. The campaign of my opponent is no different. As your mayor, I've tried to be different. I've actually done what I promised to do. I've led a council that has established a community-driven roadmap for action and has delivered results. I know we have challenges, and I sure don't think I have all the answers. But that's why you need to elect a good team of councillors. If I'm elected, you can expect the following. Unprecedented infrastructure renewal will continue. 12 more bridges will be rebuilt. We'll grow the right way. New urban design guidelines will kick in, and you can expect tree-lined streets, preserved heritage properties, and attractive mix of homes. Much of our growth is provincially mandated, but we can manage what we can control. We'll commit to doing it right. Jobs and investment will be escalated by the development of at least one new business park. My track record speaks for itself. I've demonstrated that I can be trusted. If re-elected, we'll continue to get things done together.
Thank you, Kelly.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've got two obstacles. One's a name tag and the other's a ribbon, but I'll work with them as best I can. So good evening again, and thank you for coming. This is great seeing this many people in the room tonight to just examine what is being said and to cast your vote in an effective way in October. So as I said, my name is Fred Morris. I'm a candidate for the mayor of Centre Wellington. And first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a 30-year resident in Fergus, a successful business owner in downtown Fergus, and I have served on the Centre Wellington Council for 15 years. There are 4 prominent themes that have emerged during this campaign. I've knocked on a lot of doors, I've talked to a lot of people, and I want to share them with you tonight. The first one is growth. And people are asking me as I come to the door, are we growing too fast? And do we have the capacity to properly handle that growth? That's what they're asking, and that's what this next council will have to deal with. The second is fiscal management. People are saying, are rising taxes and increased spending out of control? Because they're seeing 16% tax increases in the last 4 years and 30% increase in operational expenses. The third thing they're asking is, what about economic development? Are we making ourselves a bedroom community by just simply building more bedrooms? That's what we're seeing happen over and over and over again. And then the last thing they're asking is about community engagement. And they're saying, shouldn't community members deserve a fair and honest hearing at council? Shouldn't residents feel that their council respects their interest in the community and doesn't merely dismiss them as squeaky wheels? Ladies and gentlemen, in my campaign, I'm talking about all these issues to your neighbors, and I'm looking forward to talking about these issues tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Next, for Township Ward 3, there are 3 candidates. The first to speak is Bruce Lloyd.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Lloyd, and I'm running for your Ward 3 councillor. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, the Legion, and you, the electorate, for this evening. I would like to state that with the slate of candidates before you, any combination chosen by democracy will leave Centre Wellington in good hands. I personally chose to run a self-funded campaign to remove any optics of beholding to any group or individuals in the future. I was born here, I live here, I work here, and I play here. My wife and I chose to raise our children here, and I have spent the last 25 years working with companies and not-for-profits to assist them in reaching their full potential. Having served Kin Canada as the national president, been a board member of Cystic Fibrosis Canada, and a service club member here for 28 years, I believe in service. If elected, I will work to improve the social, cultural, and economic well-being of Centre Wellington and its residents. I will be a strong advocate for the protection of all of Centre Wellington's natural resources: water, trees, gravel, and our distinctive heritage. Private studies have shown that we need to protect what we have here and not allow our resources to be shipped across the country, all for the sake of corporate profit. With Centre Wellington's rapid growth, the next council must be poised to take on the challenges and be prepared to not only make the difficult and just decisions, but be prepared to back them up. I am that candidate. I will also work to build township support for new industry and commercial businesses, attracting new jobs to our community, and also to grow Centre Wellington in a responsible, sustainable manner to ensure that we all have a future. Democracy should demand a council that will work together for everyone's benefit. Vote Bruce Lloyd, Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next, for Township Ward 3 is Robert Foster.
Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bob Foster. I've served as your Ward 3 councillor for 4 years. I'm running for council again because Fergus is my hometown and I'd like to serve this community. I hold a bachelor's degree in business administration and urban geography. I have a master's degree in finance and accounting. I have 15 years experience in small business in the wholesale grocery sector and 15 years in budget management and financial administration with the Government of Canada. But enough about me, let's talk about you. I've spent the summer talking with citizens across Ward 3, and I believe this election is about 3 main issues. First, we face a significant challenge preserving our groundwater. As a geographer, I believe that water is a precious natural resource and we must protect it. Second, we face tremendous urban growth pressures. We're behind on our infrastructure, and as we grow, we must preserve our heritage buildings. We must avoid urban sprawl. We want to maintain the small town charms of our community. We want to ensure that nice neighborhoods are built with parks and green spaces and effective transportation. Third, housing has become very expensive in Centre Wellington, and council must do its part by controlling our costs, spending your tax dollars wisely, and keeping our taxes affordable. My friends, Fergus needs a strong and experienced voice at the council table, and I would like to be your voice. I have the background, I have the experience, and I have the enthusiasm to bring your voices forward. I've done this job before, and I'm ready and willing to do it again. Vote Bob Foster for Ward 3. A strong voice for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Our next to speak for Township Ward 3 is Dean Workman.
Wow, that's pretty tough competition, eh? Thank you so much for everyone for coming out. It's really a pleasure to see you all. Many of you may not know, or maybe you do. I was actually voted on by my peers to fill Mary Lloyd's shoes when she moved up to county. And since I've been on council, it's definitely been a very eye-opening experience and challenging, enjoyable, but challenging. Not everything is as I thought it would be. One of the things that bothered me the most is what seems to be quite a large expenditure on consultants for things when we have really hired great staff. The skill set of the staff that we have on board right now is more than capable of doing a lot of this stuff that the consultants are paid to do. If I'm elected back in, I will do my utmost to save your tax dollars where possible and try and reduce what I see as a flamboyant expenditure of our money. I know a lot of us have been struggling. A lot of us come from modest backgrounds. Me, myself, I come from very humble beginnings. My father is ex-military and my mother, she's a wonderful lady for putting up with us. And I'm a farmer. I have a specialty crop farmer and I'm a locksmith by trade. One of the things that seems to be overlooked often is most people don't realise that all these 100-acre lots out the back here are actually small businesses. They're farmers who seem to be getting the short end of the stick sometimes when it comes to infrastructure spending. There's so many bridges out. I know that they've been working on them, but I think we need to prioritise them by asking the residents which ones are crucial to get things done out there, particularly if you're driving, anyway, it's a long story, but so's the long way around sometimes, particularly if you're out trying to get through the Queen Mary. But anyway, my name's Dean Workman, time's out. You've got a tough choice, think about it, choose whoever you think will do the best job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Township Ward 4, there are 3 to speak. First to speak will be Niel Dunsmore.
I moved here 24 years ago when I was a corrections officer and provincial hostage negotiator. My wife and I fell in love with this community. I quit my job, I bought a business. In 2008, when I closed that business, I chose to stay in this community because I loved the people and I loved the community, and they were so supportive of me. I've had the privilege of coaching a lot of your children in soccer and hockey, and I've watched them grow. And if there are any referees from either of those 2 sports here tonight, I'd like to take this time to apologize again. Why am I running? It's about time. It's about time we had a council that tried to balance the tax burden between the commercial and industrial taxes and the residential taxpayer. It's been 20 years since anybody's bought commercial employment development lands in this community. We owe it to our children to give them the opportunity to work, live, and stay in the community they were raised. It's about time. We had a council that's focused not just on the next election, but the next generation. The RBC, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and the big game highlighted a big problem in this community. Our youth are taking their own lives. It was a great day and we raised a lot of money and it was a great start. But the puck is on our stick now. We owe it to the next generation to give them the resources here in this community, whether you're running for school board trustee, county council, or township council. We owe it to them to give them a life in this community. That's why I want you to take the time on October 22nd to vote Niel Dunsmore, Township Ward 4. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Niel. Next to speak, Township Ward 4, is Vinnie Green.
Good evening. Nice to see everybody come out for this meeting and the chamber and everybody else for hosting it. Okay, I'd like to firstly go into my personal achievements and lifetime goals, which are not a great deal of listening, so I won't refer to any of them. Anyway, what I'm more interested in is how government works, how people work when they interact with their government. We have a council that sits in camera most of the time, and then we can't put our questions, we can't ask our questions. We have these public meetings, little public meetings, and then they disappear behind closed doors and make decisions and don't tell us what those decisions are or who made those decisions. And for me, that's not democratic. I like people to be democratic. In 2014, Mayor Linton ran for the mayorship. If he'd have told us that he was going to put a levy on bridges before he got in, I don't think we'd have voted for him. Because in that year, it represented nearly 6% in our tax rate. You have to find the money somewhere else to do these things. The province has got the money, the Fed's got the money, you have to shop around. Now, when it comes to our youth, 18 to 24-year-olds, 45% are marijuana users. And we need to accept a marijuana dispensary in centre Wellington so we can control these poxy little drug dealers that are running around town selling our kids dope that's laced with all sorts of crap. Now, I have a 22-year-old who smokes marijuana. He'll hate me for saying it. But you look around yourselves, and I'm sure that you will have a young person in your community or somebody you know who smokes weed. And if we don't put a dispensary in town and we accept it, then we're going to have all sorts of issues with our children, and it's going to go later, it's going to get bigger drug issues, heroin, all these things. We need to be able to control this business, take it away from the poxy little people in town. On development, I think we're moving along a little bit too quickly, especially for the infrastructure, especially for the sewage.
Thank you, Vinne.
Thank you.
Next for Township Ward 4 is Paul Whitaker.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber, to the Legion Branch 275 for hosting, to the media for broadcasting it, and to the community for caring about the community. My name is Paul Whitaker, and I'd like to be the Ward 4 councillor in Centre Wellington. I went to the Laura debate last week, and I noticed that there wasn't a lot of time to talk, so I put as much as I possibly can into this, so please bear with me. Under population growth, I believe it needs to be controlled and strategic. Financial responsibility also needs to be controlled and strategic. Economic development, Ward 4 has great potential and opportunities. Arts, culture, and heritage should or could be considered separately when planning budgets. Community engagement, we must ensure a means for easier communication with our constituencies. The infrastructure, it should be paid through strategic partnerships, developmental charges, whether by reduced rates or amortization. The downtown revitalization is well underway and it looks wonderful. Bridges should be prioritized based on need and community input. Jobs, we do need to attract new opportunities and startups that align with Centre Wellington's belief systems and expectations. Consultants, I am a consulting manager and I do believe in the power of consulting. However, use only where the skill set does not already exist with staff or councillors. Taxes, nobody minds feeding the golden goose, but let's not make it too fat. Youth council's engagement are underway and absolutely critical to avoid typical growth issues. Seniors and affordable housing and support, living with dignity is essential, and like water is a human right. I am a straight shooter and realist, and I hope for the best, but I prepare for the worst. My favorite business mentor was a gentleman named Jim Rohn, and he categorized leaders this way. They must be strong but not rude, kind but not weak, bold but not a bully, humble but not timid, proud but not arrogant, humorous but not silly, and lastly, you must deal in realities and deal in truth.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Next to speak for Township Ward 5 is Kent Allison.
Hey, Senator Wellington. My name is Kent Allison, and I've been living in Ward 5 for the last 14 years. My wife, Esther, and I have been married for over 23 years now, and together we have 3 children. 7 years ago, I founded my media company, Goad Media Group, here in Fergus, which specializes in telling stories that raise awareness and provoke thought regarding issues that really matter. My work's provided me with a number of opportunities to travel internationally to countries like Bangladesh, Cambodia, Haiti, the Dominican, and Philippines, to tell stories of both locals and aid agencies to make a difference in the lives of the most vulnerable. My work's also taken me to a number of business and environmental conferences, like the most recent ISBBB conference in Guelph, which focused on bioplastics. And they really talk about the elimination of the take, make, dispose model and develop more of a circular economy, which is environmentally and business effectiveness for our region. Backing up a little bit, it's also important for you to know that in my early 20s, I lived in a subsidized housing unit in Waterloo, where I volunteered and was also encouraged to volunteer and had to volunteer as part of the residents' commitment. And I can honestly say that this season changed my life. So why am I running for town council? Well, from my vantage point, I believe that municipal governments is the only level of government where council members, in concert with residents, can develop true community and understanding of the other. I firmly agree with the ancient proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I believe that when each councillor exemplifies dignity, respect, and compassion, not only during council meetings, but also in dialogue with township staff, this style of communication will have a trickle-down effect, leading to clear, well-thought-through, transparent communication with the residents of Centre Wellington.
Thank you, Kent. Next to speak, Township Ward 5 is Stephen Kitras.
Mayor, Councillor, Trustees, Moderator, fellow candidates and constituents. My name is Stephen Kitras, and I'm running again for Ward 5 Councillor. I'd like to thank you for being the Ward 5 Councillor and representative Centre Wellington residents for the last 4 years. Let's talk money. Tax-supported capital and operational budgets went up 35.3% from 2015 to 2018. Very soon, tax assessments will catch up with the exploding prices in housing, and then we will need more budget controls. Not all residents are fortunate to own houses, and rental accommodations are rare, and elderly residents on fixed incomes have increased as clients at the food bank from 6 to 30% in just 4 years. Consultants' use has increased 1,116% in 4 years, and not one was about saving. Overrun on capital projects cost millions of extra dollars over the original costs just to pander to special interests in Elora. Pearl Development paid no DC charges on Mill Street and the pedestrian bridge. And hungry elderly homeowners are trying to make ends meet, and rural residents are waiting for bridges and pavement for years, if not decades. We need to restore affordable and accountable government, restore citizen advisory standing committees for budget operations and planning, a moratorium on tax increases until proper budget processes are in place, and get official plan and growth plans right for all residents, not just developers. It's not enough to get things done for developers and special interests. We need to use common sense thinking for the common good of taxpayers and residents for the future of Centre Wellington. This is responsible government. I can be a voice for you.
Thank you, Stephen. Next to speak for Township Ward 6 in an acclaimed position is Stephen Van Leeuwen.
I have the pleasure of representing Township Ward 6 for Centre Wellington. That is the south side of Scotland over towards the river, so it's the east-south side of Centre Wellington. So I'm obviously acclaimed, but one of the number one questions people ask me is, why would you run again? What do I have to offer the township for one more round? There are so many important things that we've taken on in the past little while. We've got such an amount of growth coming down. The province has come in with all these special growth statements, really driving growth into this area. And we've begun the process of saying, how are we going to control this growth? For the last 4 years, we've gone through, we've talked about infrastructure, we've started transportation master plans, and how are we going to work through this? And council's had real discussions about it. We've talked about our water, for example, which everyone knows is important. We've gone through, we've said it's important to us as council. and we really laid a line saying we will not give our water away. But also even when it comes to economic development, there's so many plans. We've taken real people out of the community, involved them in the economic development, put them at the table, and taken their ideas and put them back into practice. It's not just council's plan, it's not just staff, but we're really taking people from the community and good plans. And that's why I said we're so close with these plans to get them moving forward, to start going, all these plans we see rolling out, even when it comes to the 2% capital bridge, we've started to see that ball rolling. We need to keep it going through. And therefore, I felt it was so important to finish this next term, see these through, because I'm very excited to see it actually, because this is our community. So again, thank you for letting me represent again. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Now County Ward 4. First to speak is Wayne Baker.
I would initially like to thank the Centre Wellington Chamber of Commerce. Being past president of the Arthur District Chamber of Commerce, I know the work that is involved in putting an evening such as this together. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, fellow candidates, my name is Wayne Baker, and with your permission, I would like to be your councillor for Ward 4, Wellington County. My wife Marilyn and I relocated to a rural property just outside Arthur in December 2005. The house was run down, the winter was particularly cold, and the marriage was tested, especially when the weather was bad. Marilyn experienced her first snow day that winter. Suffice to say, we survived. She was a city girl that came kicking and screaming to the country, and now she won't leave. After moving to Arthur, my primary customers closed shop and moved overseas, which left me scrambling to reestablish my business base. As mentioned earlier, I'm past president of the Arthur District Chamber of Commerce, and I'm actively involved in the Arthur community, which includes volunteering for the local youth drop-in, the Arthur Door. Why do I want to be your councillor for Ward 4? That's a tough question to answer in just 2 minutes. How about I give you a sense of the kind of thinking I will bring to council, and if you like what you hear, you can show your support by casting your ballot in my favor. If elected to council, my attitude will be focused towards what will make the lives of the residents of Wellington County better, and by doing so with an eye to tax efficiency, infrastructure capacity, and a needs-based, not a wants-based approach to spending our tax dollars. I thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening.
Thank you, Wayne. County Ward 4, next to speak is Penny Renken.
Hello, I'm Penny Renken. I'm a candidate for County Councillor in Ward 4, and I believe that communities need to come first, and you are the communities. My husband and I have been sheep farmers, and so I'd like to see a balance between keeping good arable land as farms and using other lands for the new population and business growth. We also worked off the farm. I was the Freedom of Information Coordinator for a municipal police service for 22 years. I'm a member of the Cultural Roundtable. The committee promotes a diversified culture, providing interest for current residents while drawing in new people. This in turn will also encourage new businesses and increase economic growth. We need the increase in businesses for financial planning. In church, I'm an elder and leader in Vacation Bible School. I'm still a member of Girl Guides of Canada. I've been a Brownie, Guide, and Pathfinder leader. That is why I'm very concerned with having the homeless teens and adults in the County of Wellington and those struggling with mental illness. If elected, I would like to work on committees with experienced personnel to find solutions to help those individuals. Past history is not only interesting, but it's important to preserve our heritage for future generations. I belong to Mount Forest Museum and Archives, Arthur Historical Society, and I'm on the committee which is restoring the Lyons Blacksmith Shop in Kenilworth. When restored, it will provide education for school children and be open to the public to show a way of life that was and should not be forgotten. I'm also concerned with the seniors who are struggling to make ends meet and who need affordable housing and support. Our communities owe a debt of thanks to seniors who helped build them. There are also those with disability issues and require special services. By working with different organizations in Centre and North Wellington, we must ensure that all residents are provided with the necessities of life. These are some goals that I will be working towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Next to speak, County Ward 4 is Ross Chaulk.
That's cooperation. We didn't knock over a single glass. Hello, my name is Ross Chaulk. I am a 28-year resident of Ward 4 and a candidate for the Wellington County Ward 4 councillor position. I put my name forward because I believe that I have the experience and skill required to make a difference. Voters are losing faith in their elected representatives. Property taxes increase every year. The system needs to be reviewed to eliminate inefficiencies that will lead to cost savings. Let me put my skills and experience to work for you. I am the president of Ross Chaulk Accounting Services Limited, a successful accounting business in Wellington North. I was a councillor in Arthur Township from 1994 to 1998, pre-amalgamation. I was a councillor in Wellington North from 2003 until 2010. I have been a Finance Committee Chairman and a member of the Recreation Committee, Board of Works Committee, Building and Property Committee, Economic Development Committee, and the Fire Committee. I have completed the municipal accounting and finance program that is required of treasurers. I will use the skills and knowledge that I have acquired to be a team player on Wellington County Council. My priorities include fiscal responsibility, openness in government, infrastructure renewal, natural resources stewardship. The county should be run like a business. With my accounting background and business experience, I will be a critical part of the budgeting process and financial review as the county moves forward and becomes a more efficient operation. I will always be available if you have a concern or would like to speak to me about any issue. For business sense, for common sense, for experience, vote Ross Chaulk, a resident of Ward 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Next to speak, County Ward 4 is Alan Hans.
Good evening all, and thank you for attending tonight's debate. I was born and raised in Fergus with a leave to attend the University of Toronto to study political science and economics. I now work as a financial advisor at the Ecclestone Financial Group here in Fergus, and I have the pleasure of raising my two young daughters here, Emma 5 and Grace 8, with my wife Carrie, who also teaches at Alma Public School. I have a deep respect for the community that has given me and my family so much over the years. I've done my best to return that favor by assisting with Habitat for Humanity Wellington Dufferin Guelph in building 3 area homes, as well as salvaging items from the former Fergus Motel for sale at the Restore. I'm chair at Melville United Church as we look to restore a local landmark. I've donated blood, I've parked cars at the Scottish Festival and the former truck show, I've coached a baseball team, I've tried to help wherever I can. I'm running in this election to try to create the kind of vibrant communities that our children can thrive in and see a future for themselves in staying as adults. With 2 young children, I believe I'm perfectly positioned to keep the county focused on this goal as we work to leverage our area's tremendous growth potential in the years to come. Should I earn your support in this election, I also want to make the county a more visible part of your daily lives. You might be familiar with the Township open house or town hall sessions that are held quarterly. I would love for the county to hold a similar event where you get to meet the decision makers, councillors, and staff who can explain the rationale behind the decisions, and you'll have the opportunity to explain how that's impacted you. It's about transparency, it's accountability, and I believe it's about time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Last to speak in County Ward 4 is Jake Bouwman.
Good evening. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this evening. My name is Jake Bouwman, and I'm a candidate for Wellington County Ward 4. As a lifelong resident of Wellington County, my wife Anita and I have owned and operated a dairy and cash crop farm for the last 35 years, in the Fergus area. I'm actively involved in local church, school, and business committees, having recently completed a number of terms on our County Dairy Farmers Committee. I am committed to fiscal responsibility and sound planning. I am committed to being a good steward of our many resources so that there is sufficient also for the future generations. Whether it be land, water, or air, we must be active in providing for a sustainable future. Wellington County has a dynamic, growing population with a rich history, which we must build on for a strong future. Growth in our various communities should be encouraged so that we can continue to provide the various services that we have become used to. From our earliest settlers of this area to the present, many people groups have come to call this area home. They have made this area into a rich heritage. I am thankful for the opportunities we have to live and grow in this country. My desire is to promote this concept in all issues that will be discussed at County Council. I look forward to this evening to listen to your questions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Well, I didn't recognize Stephen when he came in, and I skipped his name on the list of County Ward 4 councillors, so I apologize. We will next hear from Stephen O'Neill for County Ward 4.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Steve O'Neill, and I'm running to be your councillor in County Ward 4. I was raised in Arthur, and I live there with my wife, Susan. We have 3 daughters, 2 live in Guelph, 1 lives here in Center Wellington with her husband and 2 grandchildren. As a mortgage agent in the area, I see property taxes as a big problem every day. New home buyers, a lot of them I deal with, they get a real eye-opener when they start looking for a home. The county gets approximately 50% of your tax dollars, and it's important for you to know what the county does. In 2014, I ran for County Council in Ward 4, and while canvassing, I realized a lot of people didn't know what the county did, and that's even with the ad in the Wellington Advertiser Weekly. Everybody needs to know what the county does and what the township does, and that's a big issue. And I will make myself available to help answer those questions you have. In 2018, the county budgeted $192 million in spending. Property taxes were at $95 million. In 2022, spending is budgeted for expected to be budgeted for $217. Property taxes will need to be up at $118 million. Expenditures cannot go up 13% while revenues go up less than 5%. We need to get those figures close together. I'm a dedicated community member. I've been an active member of the Optimist Club for 30 years. I volunteer for Get in Touch for Hutch, which is a mental health group. And as an Optimist member, I go to try and get out to the Rotary Bingos because they pay our Optimist Club for helping them work. So we do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. County Ward 4 in an acclaimed position is Mary Lloyd. Oh, what did I say? Sorry, I said 4, did I? Sorry, County Ward 5. Sorry, Mary.
Thank you very much, Janet. You do a hard job here tonight. My name is Mary Lloyd. I live here in Fergus. I have been here since 1986. I have 2 grown children and a son-in-law, all who live in this community and work in this community and are proud to call it home. I've been married 39 years, and this is my home. I'm active in the community through BIA and the Hospital Foundation, fundraising, and church, and just about anything that somebody has a need for a volunteer, I put up my hand. I feel I have brought a woman's perspective in my past position at the Township Council, and I'm wanting to do the same at the Wellington County Council table. After all, women, we are 50% of the population. There's just not many of us that sit at these council tables. I believe that I can bring good representation for Centre Wellington because I have watched what's happening in local municipalities. Formerly, I was involved in the Safe Communities, working with the OPP and other organizations, as well as sitting on the hospital board, which brought me great joy when the announcement for the hospital came through. Now I sit on the Social Services Committee and the Information, Heritage and Seniors. And I'm very excited about the seniors and where we're heading with that, and look forward to the challenges and exciting news about announcing a continuum of care growth that we are hoping to build out on our Wellington County lands. And I'm sure you all saw the opening of our new daycare center with the groundbreaking, bringing 64 new spots into our community for childcare. I want to say thank you to the Centre Wellington Chamber of Commerce. I'm a proud member of 20 years, and I have a business in downtown Fergus, and I'm always willing to take a question and find an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next for County Ward 6, first to speak is Diane Ballantyne.
Good evening. I would like to acknowledge the Six Nations of the Grand on whose ancestral and treaty lands we live, work, and play. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting tonight, and for the Legion for hosting us during Legion Week, and for all of you for spending your evening with us this evening. My name is Diane Ballantyne, and I'm running for County Council Ward 6 because Centre Wellington deserves an effective advocate. Did you know that 57% of every tax dollar that we pay to the township is transferred to the county? 57% is a great deal of money, and that warrants far better value for us, the largest township in the county. And while the county takes in 5 times more revenue, it has only twice the amount of infrastructure to maintain. Insiders at the county use the term the Wellington Standard, which means expensive. Take the almost $6 million new library in Hillsburg, and please understand, I have nothing against libraries. I'm a teacher. I know we need libraries, but what I am concerned about is overspending just because you can. And the county can because they're sitting on over $200 million worth of reserves. The county is an institution, and institutions protect the status quo. As a result, we need leadership at the county level to challenge business as usual, to better represent the ratepayer and our changing community's needs. We need someone who will ask courageous questions and build plans that will outlast the election cycle. To be clear, I'm not talking about being a bull in a china shop. I'm talking about a strong, analytical, thoughtful advocate for Centre Wellington. As you may know, I've been actively collaborating on injustice issues for decades, and to me, this imbalance between Centre Wellington and the county is a different yet equally important kind of injustice. On October 22nd, I ask you to vote for Diane Ballantyne. Please check out dianeballantyne.ca for more information. Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Next to speak in County Ward 6 is Shawn Waters.
I promise I won't sing. Hi, my name's Shawn Waters. I've been a member of this community for over 30 years. Deb and I have raised 2 lovely boys. And I've had the opportunity to be a councillor. I started on council back in 1997. I was on the very last Elora Council. I've had the privilege of working with 4 mayors, 3 wardens, and I'm a very lucky guy to be living in this community because this community has given me and my family everything. The county is a wonderful place, and I'll make you, it's such a wonderful place that we have 7 equal partners. We work hard together. Over the last decade, we've built this beautiful library system, which has allowed opportunities. It's like our universities and our gathering places for every part of this community. And these are wonderful places. And to say, on the one hand, we don't want to spend that kind of money, but on the other hand, I really like libraries. Look at, we have this jewel in Fergus. There was lots of controversy on that. That is a tremendous part of our community. And the county does all these types of things because it really cares for this community. And we all are partners. We work as partners every day trying to build the best we can for this community. We want this community to be rich in thought and our history, and we're very proud. All the folks, we have over 800 folks that work for the county. They work their buttons off every day for ourselves. They give us all the opportunities to be able to develop this community in a fantastic way. There are certain things, so we need to be cognizant. One of the things is growth. And we're going to have the issue of growth, and it's coming in a big way. And we need to be able to provide the opportunities for the other communities in the county to grow, because growth can always be here. So, anyways, I look forward to talking together a little bit later, and thanks for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Shawn. Next to speak for English Public School Board, first will be Barb Lungston-Evoy. Lustgard, sorry.
Lustgarden. That's okay. Janet, we've only known each other for
I just
100
know you
years.
as Barb Evoy.
It's okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. If you know me, you know how excited I am about my job, and I'm equally excited about running again to keep my role. I was there for 4 years, and I think it was just a little bit of a taste of what's yet to come, but I am definitely your strong, experienced voice. My number one priority is always going to be your child's success in education, in building strong, resilient skills and self-advocacy skills, in walking away after 12 years of education, a stronger, better part of our community. I believe that some of you may already know, I work with children every day. It's not just my trustee job, it's my life. I work with children every day. I work with their teachers, with their support teams, with all kinds of people, doctors, caregivers, who are helping the children in our community to succeed in my everyday business. It was a natural for me to move forward into the role of trustee. I want to say thank you to every single teacher, student, staff member, and family who helped us, because last time I ran for this role, I challenged our Upper Grand and the Centre Wellington Board, or Centre Wellington schools, to be green. We were the very first English public school in the entire province to become entirely eco-certified, and I owe great thanks to you on that note. Et pour les Français, je suis ici pour vous. Je vous vais aider votre enfant à parler du francophone. Je veux des enfants de Centre Wellington tiennent deux langues, English and French. I want our children to have 2 languages, and I intend, as a French-speaking 3-language person, to make sure that our children and you have that opportunity. I'm super excited, as you can probably tell, about holding this role and continuing to be your voice. I asked the tough questions for the last 4 years, and I will continue to do so in your honor. On October 22nd, vote Barbie Boy.
Thank you, Barb. Next for English Public School Board is Jesse Wootton.
Good evening. So a little bit about me and my motivations for running for this position. I am a tech professional. I work in the startup community in Kitchener-Waterloo. I'm a businessman. I am fervently interested in all things tech, and I think that needs to be borne out in our schools as well. So today, a lot of you are obviously focused on the councillors and the mayor, but I don't want you to overlook the position of school board trustee. It is a very important position that we certainly need to think a little bit more about it when we cast that ballot. It has come to my attention that often people just ignore that part of the ballot, and that's something that we really should not be doing. When you go on October 22nd, think about what I can bring to the table, think about what Barb can bring to the table. I'm advocating for increased programs for STEM, science, technology, education, engineering, and math. But as a balance, because we can't forget the arts as well, as they are certainly very important to a holistic education for our children. In the tech community in Kitchener-Waterloo, I see the job market evolve right in front of my eyes. I interview people for positions that I just created the week before because we need someone to do something that hasn't been done before. And in order to arm our children with the tools needed to navigate the constantly evolving job market, we need new programs and opportunities for them to get into. So that is where I come from with respect to the school board trustee position, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, in an acclaimed position for English Separate School Board is Andrew Finoro.
Well, hello everyone. First of all, thank you very much for your time. I wanted to say how grateful I was and continue to be as a trustee with the Wellington Catholic Board. It's an honor and it's a privilege to serve students, parents, grandparents within the communities of Center Wellington and North Wellington. I've been an educator now for 44 years, and yes, I started teaching when I was really young. I spent 16 years as a school administrator, the last 9 years as a principal of a Catholic county school in Center Wellington. And when I retired 5 years ago, I thought it was really important that I pay back to the community who were so supportive of me when I worked with them as a school principal. So I continue as a trustee, and in conversations with parents, they tell me that experience matters, and I truly believe in that. However, if I looked at all of the years of experience I've had over the decades in various roles, it all boils down to me to one particular question, one phrase. What's best for kids in a faith environment? And as I continue my role as a Catholic school trustee, I will always look at the best interests of our students within that faith environment. They are our focus and they are our future. So thank you once again for your time. It was a privilege to be invited. Thanks again.
Thank you, Andrew. Dennis Trudel from the French Public School Board did not attend, so Pascale Thibodeau is here this evening representing the French Public School Board.
Well, apparently we keep the best for last. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. Merci beaucoup à tous ceux qui sont venus. Je suis francophone, I am francophone. For the purpose of tonight, I will speak in English, just so that everyone can benefit from why I'm running as a candidate. I myself am a parent of 2 young children and have found with several other children that our voice are not being heard by the school board. Me, along with 4 other parents, have decided to run simultaneously to bring new blood to the board. It's a gutsy move. It's very challenging for anyone who has young children can understand how hard it is to find the time, but that's how strongly we felt that we needed to be heard. We needed to be heard at the level of the board because we realized that those decisions that impact children across our very large region is not being heard and not being consulted. So we are presenting ourselves to be the voice of the parents as parents, to show transparency and to see consultation happen with the parents, because a lot of projects, exciting ones nonetheless, are happening, but without our consultation. And sometimes we learn after the fact that it could have been done so much more in line with what the community needs. We are facing problems with distances and assimilation due to the, we are facing assimilation, meaning that our French children are leaving our schools and going to English schools because of the fact that the distances are so large or the schools are not equivalent. That means our programs are not of same value as the English schools. And I can't tell you, even though I am bilingual, how sad I am to see that happen. Because for every generation we lose part of our culture. We lose part of who we are. And I am not sure how many of you...
Thank you, Pascale.
Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to move on to the questions, and there were a lot of questions submitted, and just given the large number of people that are in front of you, there's no way we're going to get to all the questions. And again, the questions that are not answered will be answered by the person they were directed to and sent to the person that asked the question. We will make sure they get forwarded. So our first question is for the mayoral candidates, and I will ask Fred to answer the question first. As mayoral candidates and current members of council, do you support the mayoral and councillor motion to raise above what was recommended by an outside expert and reimbursement and a citizen advisory team fit in your campaign promise to respect our taxes?
Well, thank you very much for that question. It was a recorded vote, and the vote was recorded that I voted against the recommendation of the consultant and in favor of the last recommendation. And the reason was quite simple. The consultant based the recommendation on what I felt was a very flawed and faulty premise. They based it on the fact that every council member was only going to earn for that particular year the salary they received from council. And we tried to tell them in June that that's not the case. When we file our taxes, we have other sources of income. I'm a businessman, I have a business, I earn a wage there. And so this whole premise of giving us a raise based on the fact that we only had $18,000 worth of income for the year was grossly unfair. And so when it came time to relook at it again, we decided to vote on a proper raise so that the next councillor who sits in my seat will make the same amount of money that I'm making right now after taxes.
Thank you.
I was really disappointed that this motion went to council. We had a consultant and a citizen advisory group provide a recommendation based on the 50th percentile, and I was good with that process because it was consistent. And we had underpaid the mayor a bit and we underpaid councillors a bit, but we need an expert who does that and a citizen advisory group to give us recommendations, and it's completely inappropriate for a sitting council who all are going for re-election to give themselves a raise above what was recommended by a consultant and a citizen advisory group that was selected by the township. Completely inappropriate.
Thank you, Kelly. Our next question is directed to Bruce Lloyd and Dean Workman. We'll ask Bruce to answer first. Where does agriculture fit into your economic development priorities for the municipality?
Thank you very much for the question. I believe that it's a strong driver. When you look around what Center Wellington is, it is agriculture. It is, if you attended the Fergus Fall Fair this past weekend, you can see how important it is. I am also in agreement with tiering the bridges based on need, because there's no sense in replacing a bridge that only 6 farms use when you're not replacing a bridge that 18 farms use. So I'm in total agreement that agriculture, it was stated earlier, agricultural land should be remaining agricultural and not turning into subdivisions. I'm also in agreement with that.
Thank you, Bruce. Dean?
Yeah, we're probably going to have very similar answers. In my opening statement, I did mention that all these farms are small businesses, so they are an essential fabric of who we are. It's not just the downtown. We need the downtown, absolutely, but the farmers are what makes everything. That's the foundation of what actually started the downtowns, were the farmers settling these lands. The bridges, it's got to be the right priority. It's not just a matter of order, it's about necessity. Certain bridges are more key than others, and we need to address that now. But, like I mentioned the Queen Mary before, I mean, it's not my ward, but that's crucial to have that open. I reckon that's just about it on that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is at the mayoral candidates. I'll have Kelly answer first. Good leadership requires setting priorities and making difficult spending decisions. How will you plan on leading a council where the township's priorities are in line with the priorities of the majority of its citizens?
Well, one of the things the first thing that what you have to do is you have to listen to people. And that means that you have to ask people what their priorities are, and that's not easy to do. I held 14 town hall sessions, and these were not propaganda sessions. These were me providing a 20-minute overview and then an open mic question and answer period that you can't stage. These were difficult sessions to facilitate. And it gave people an opportunity to tell us what their priorities were. What bridge, and the thing we heard over and over and over again is, when are you getting to my bridge? When are you getting to my road? And I know that we can't rebuild as fast as possible, but the key thing is that you put a plan in place, you establish your priorities based on usage, based on priority, based on safety, and then you work the plan. And that's how you set priorities. We went out with a citizen survey, and the top two areas where citizens said they were willing to spend more money was replacing bridges and replacing and repairing roads.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, sorry, Fred. Skip you.
I thought she was going to miss me.
No,
I was kind of
sorry.
keeping my head down there. But this is a great question, because really, when you've been on council for 15 years and you've been engaged with the community for that long in so many different ways, you actually talk to a lot more people than someone who's just been there for 4 years. And what I've heard over and over again is infrastructure. Infrastructure is important to this community. It's always been important, and it will continue to be important. Really, hiring a consultant to get that answer is just a complete waste of money, because the community has spoken again and again and again about that priority. Taxes are another issue. The community has spoken about taxes, and just to reiterate, 16% tax increase in the last 4 years. That's not fair, because we are getting much more funding now from other sources of government than we ever got in the past. In fact, we lost money in the past from other sources of government. So again, the priorities are clear. The community has been speaking for decades about what's important to them. It's just time to get down to work and do them.
Thank you, Fred. The next question is directed to Dean Workman and Fred Morris. I'll have Dean answer the question first. As the current councillors for Ward 3 and 4, you are familiar with the huge issue of garbage in our core. We have overflowing dumpsters in township property, people dumping garbage behind businesses, and people using the township cans for their personal garbage bags. What have you initiated to get rid of this ongoing problem in our downtown?
Well, it's kind of news to me, to be quite up front. I guess a really good place to start would be just to actually allow people to dump their bags without taxing them for it. And because I know my missus, like, we're out in the country, we have to drive everything in and get charged for it. But I mean, that's what the tip's for, right? To get rid of your garbage. So if that's for free, it makes it easier downtown, doesn't it? Thank you.
Thank you. Fred?
Yeah, first of all, let me say that it is very difficult, if not almost impossible, to legislate human behavior. People do things that really they shouldn't do. And how do you legislate that kind of problem, against that kind of a problem? That's difficult. But having said that, I think the fact that now that we have a bylaw enforcement officer, this should come under property standards. We need our staff member who does this job for us now to visit the downtown locations to see what's going on there. If it's businesses that are in violation, they need to be spoken to and hopefully correct the problem. If it's individuals, though, I don't know how you're going to find them unless you catch them in the act.
Thank you. Next question is for the mayoral candidates, and I'll have Fred answer first. You voted against all 4 budgets this past term because you said that the tax rate increase was too high, even though a solid portion was earmarked for capital spending. In 2018, the budget increase was 3.8%. However, as the budget chair for 2016 to 2014, you supported 4 budgets in 8 years with a higher tax rate increase than what we saw in 2008 and 18, and saw only 5 bridges built in that whole period. Can you explain why you were fine with very similar tax rate increases in your time as chair of budget compared to this past term of council with less reinvestment into bridges or capital work in general?
Well, I got it all. And while they're fixing the computer, I might as well just start talking because am I still on the 1-minute clock?
Go ahead, yeah.
Anyway, really, folks, compare what was going on in the past with what's going on today is like comparing apples and oranges. What's happening today, the reason why I voted against all 4 budgets is because back in 2015, when the first budget came into effect, I voted against the 2% capital levy because it was the only, and get this, the only option given to us as councillors. I did my research and I found that the City of Ottawa, when they addressed the same issue, their staff brought back 6 different options. And I said at the time, why don't we have more options? And I just think that raising taxes is a simple solution, but it's not the best solution. Thank you.
We do recognize that some questions are directed simply to one of the mayoral candidates, but for the sake of fair debate, we do direct all the questions to both.
One of the things that we did in council right away is this council took responsibility for our infrastructure. For 8 years, we had just been blaming the province, putting our head in the sand, and not doing anything. And still, in 2007, we had a 3.93% increase. 2008, we had a 3.87% increase. 2009, we had a 3.99% increase. 2012, we had a 6.42% increase. The difference between this 2% capital levy and any 2% capital levy is just this. It goes to a list of prioritized bridges based on our condition report. And when in 2021, when it's over, it's going to be reduced. 2022, it's going to be over. It's not going into our operations. It's going to a need that we've ignored for far too long.
Thank you. Next question is also to the mayoral candidates, and we'll have Kelly answer first. It has become increasingly apparent that several hundred transports continue to travel along Bellside, heading either east towards Allison or Orangeville, or to Highway 6 south to numerous manufacturing plants in southern Ontario. In the short 2-kilometer stretch of Bellside to Highway 6 to just beyond Scotland, there's one high school, one elementary school, an assisted living center for seniors, and a large recreational complex, as well as a large number of apartments on the north side of Bellside. Virtually all of these transports provide little to no economic value to the town of Fergus, but merely pass through. Although the town does incur, in my opinion, more than its fair share of costs associated with the road maintenance. So the question is, without pushing the responsibilities for this issue back to other governments, what will you do as mayoral candidate to push a bypass around the town that drastically reduces this volume of traffic, cuts noise, air pollution, protects our children's, parents, seniors from a potential traffic accident, and get this done over the next 3 years?
I've heard versions of that question a lot, and that's a huge concern. I mean, when I'm in downtown Fergus and I see these transport trucks going, it absolutely drives me crazy. We have over 100 signs set up that are supposed to be moving people around. We've talked to the trucking companies. We have detour signs. We've put some temporary speed pillars up by the schools. We're doing what we can. Having the St. David Street Bridge out is really, really bad. It's good because it's getting fixed and we won't have to deal with it for another 100 years, but it's making the problem even worse than it is right now. A bypass, our transportation master plan, which was helped by consultants, but not a penny of that was taxpayers' money. It was all development charges, just so you know. And our transportation master plan has a bypass route that goes up the Elora Road. What's that highway again? I've lived here so long.
7.
Highway 7. So it goes up Highway 7. We're going to have to communicate that out to the trucking companies, and that's our short-term plan. In the future, we are going to have to look at another bypass road around Fergus, but we do have that right now.
These questions are turning into paragraphs, and it's hard to remember all of that's in there. But really, the trucking issue has been a problem for a long time. And even before this council, I had asked previous councils and staff to look into trucking routes. The fact that the St. David Street Bridge is out was probably the reason why they redirected the traffic around Highway 7, or County Road 7, and up through Elma and so on. But what I found very disappointing about this transportation plan that recently was done at a cost of several hundreds of thousands of dollars, that the consultant admitted to us during his presentation that not once did he go into the northeast corner of Fergus and talk to the trucking company that's there. I really question the value of a transportation plan that deals with truck routes when you don't even go and talk to a truck company.
Thank you. Common theme. Our next question is to the mayoral candidates, and Fred will answer first. You're telling voters that business is booming in Centre Wellington because there's no vacancies in the storefronts in Fergus or Elora, with new businesses such as Pearl Hospitality having 200 new jobs. Business is booming suggests there is a rapid growth in new jobs, not just a few vacant storefronts reopening. Over the past 4 years, how many jobs were created as a result of initiatives by your administration?
Well, I think the quote, I'm struggling with that. I think the quote is really Kelly's quote that you're referring to. I never did say business is booming in Centre Wellington. But having said that, I think when you look at Pearl, you have to realize that those jobs were already planned back in 2010 when they first bought the facility. Yes, they had to do some maintenance and some building and whatnot, but the jobs were planned. So to take credit for them today as an action that this council actually is responsible for is a bit of a stretch. I think what we need to do, though, for economic development in Centre Wellington is we really need to identify just what are the needs of this community. What are the sectors? And I mean by we need to play to our strengths. We're building a brand new hospital. I think the health sciences is a sector that really needs to be looked at. And then the geographical location that we have to the technological triangle. IT, the knowledge industry, has to be looked at as possible prospects of businesses that can be brought to Centre Wellington. So we have to play to our strengths for economic development, and we have to proactively seek new businesses.
Thank you.
One of the things that Councillor Van Leeuwen mentioned is our Economic Development Task Force, and they've been really, really critical in making sure that we have a private sector, citizen-led. Some of our business leaders are in and giving us really good recommendations when it comes to jobs and investment. One of the things that we have done is we've reduced the development fees by over 60%, from $7.16 to $2.54 a square foot. Ask Ryan and Katie Pope of Motion Electric if that meant something to them. They saved $23,000 in development fees and charges to have 5 to 10 new jobs. Ask Andy Crane Auto Service in Fergus, who saved $16,000 to expand their business and create new jobs. This program is seeing results. We're removing a huge barrier that our businesses said was there, and that's development charges, and we have to go further than this. We need to have a business park in Centre Wellington, and I think, Niel, you mentioned this, we have a business park that brings more jobs and investment to Centre Wellington.
Thank you. This, unfortunately, will be our last question to allow time for closing statements, and again, it is directed to the mayoral candidates. Of all the municipalities within the county, Centre Wellington is the fastest growing town. People want to live here. You believe that Centre Wellington is growing too fast. As a long-standing councillor, you have not been able to slow the rate of growth. If elected mayor, what would you do given that our growth is mandated by the county and by the province? Yep.
Really, growth cannot be imposed on you. If a municipality does not have the wherewithal to manage that growth, then you just can't, if you don't have the money for the infrastructure. So it used to be, folks, that we could compel the developer to upfront the cost of infrastructure for a subdivision. But then the province changed the laws and said, no, you can't do that anymore. You can ask them to do it, but you can't compel them to do it. And so if we do not have the resources, if we do not have the wherewithal of putting the pipes in the ground and the infrastructure in the ground for subdivisions, then we just have to hit the pause button. It's just that simple. Because we don't have an unlimited supply of monetary resources. There's a lot of needs in this community, and just simply putting in brand new infrastructure for developers just isn't at the top of the list.
I just want to make it real. That's a really good question because I know from growing up here, we all want to have a community that we can be proud of in 10 years, and we want to grow right. But what is a challenge is when the provincial government mandates growth, and it's really nice to say we're just going to say no, but you can't just say no. And we lobby the government. We've met with ministers, and we've said, look, can you get your hands off Centre Wellington? Because we really want to grow at the speed we have to grow at. But we took a pause in Centre Wellington. We developed a growth management strategy because we have to do what we can do, and that is make sure that we're controlling our growth as much as possible. We're developing urban design guidelines so that when we grow, they have to, the residential, the commercial, and the industrial areas have to meet certain design principles and parameters. We have to make sure we're growing right. We have to continue to put pressure on the province, and hopefully with the new government, they'll take a little bit more of a hands-off approach. But we have to do both of those things.
Thank you. We'll now move into closing statements. First to speak for the English Public School Board will be Jesse Wootton.
Thank you all again for coming. I just want to say I really do believe fervently in the democratic process, and I know that nobody addressed any questions to us today, which was very much expected. But I do want you to inform yourselves and look at what I stand for, what Barb stands for, and make an informed vote on October 22nd. You can go to my website at voteinformed.info, which has information on myself, on Barb, as well as links to all of the candidates here tonight and their websites. Le français est très important pour moi. I did grow up in Quebec. My French is not nearly as good as it used to be. And that's the interesting thing about language, is when you don't use it, you lose it. And that's one of the really good things we can say about the French immersion program here in the Upper Grand District School Board, is that it really is an immersive experience that really develops that language. So I don't want you to vote for me. I do want you to vote for me, but what I really want is for you to inform yourself on what I would bring to the table, what I would bring to the board, the viewpoints that I have and how I can bring them to the table, as well as what Barb does as well. She's done a fantastic job over the last 4 years, and I want you to be informed. If she is the candidate that you think will do the best job, please vote for her. But I really just want to make sure you're informed. Today, I stayed home today. My daughter was sick, and I sat there. She's 1 year old, and she's not in school yet, but I'm thinking about her future already. And when I think about what we can do with the school board now, it really makes me inspired to try to drive that change and have the education that we can for all our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Next is Barb.
So I just want to point out, be very proud of our schools. Our STEM programs are fabulous. I have to point that out. Our technology, if you know anybody at CW, we have students who have won amazing prizes in the tech field. So I love that Jesse wants to bring it to the table. We've got it strong at the table, but it's always good to strengthen what we already have. So on top of being an experienced trustee, I'm also very serious about ensuring that your hard-earned tax dollars are well taken care of and that we maintain a very well-balanced budget. Our budget is upward of $400 million, and it's my job to speak on your behalf to make sure that I'm keeping your dollars safe. It's important that you understand as well that every single question, call, concern, text, email, or visit that I've ever received from any one of my constituents, I have faced it not only head on, but I have ensured a successful response at every go, leaving not one of my constituents with an unhappy ending when they've come to see me about something. Le meilleur part de mon travail consiste à voir vos enfants réussir. In other words, or in English, one of the things I love most about my job is watching your children succeed. J'aime les regarder devenir plus pour sont vraiment le futur. Our children are our future, and our children in Centre Wellington are definitely well stewarded with me at the helm. I just want to say, as I have 20 seconds left, that Jesse was right about people not understanding the value of the trustee vote. We have, even without you, even if you don't have children in the system right now, we are still spending your tax dollars. So please vote wisely, vote carefully, and know that I've got your back. Thanks.
Thank you, Barb. Next for County Ward 6 is Shawn Waters.
Thanks again for coming out today. I really appreciate it. And again, thank the Legion and all the folks that put this together. It's wonderful to see. We had a big crowd out in Elora and another big crowd here. And it's wonderful that the community does come out and support these people. I've been doing this for a long time, and I give all these people real kudos because it's not an easy thing to put yourself in front of people and stand for something. And it's very important that we have this definitely type of a process. One of the biggest issues that we're going to need to deal with is the growth issue. And there are things that we can do on the growth side. We need to empower the county in terms of allowing them to be able to move people around the county in terms where the growth areas are. Obviously, Centre Wellington has been identified as a growth area, but I can tell you right now, Bouwman and Guelph-Ferramasa and Erin want to be growth areas. And if the county can work with those communities to develop strategies in terms of the growth, we can help those communities grow because they're desperate for growth. And that would take the pressure off in our community. So we really need to dialogue with that. I suggest that in the next term of election, I deal with my fellow county councillors and deal with the local level, and we try to push that one because those communities want growth. And I know our community's changed, and we try the best to sort of manage that, but it's really important that we can work together and try to make this community that really wanted to be, and also make the other parts of the county a great place to live. Anyways, thanks again. Look forward to seeing you and knocking on the doors. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Shawn. Next to speak for County Ward 6 is Diane Ballantyne.
It's difficult to really get to know somebody in this sort of a scenario, especially when you don't have any questions asked to you. And unlike Jesse, I do actually want you to vote for me. So here's a very little bit. I began my career at Queen's Park, and I've since worked in education. I've received a Provincial Human Rights Award, completed my master's, and I've written for TVO and CBC. I was elected to the Ontario College of Teachers Council, where I'm responsible for managing an estimated $60 million revenue stream and $40 million in assets. My collaborative leadership approach earned the confidence of my colleagues, and I was elected to chair 2 different council committees. Here in our community, my leadership has included supporting Save Our Waters efforts by bringing UN Water Advisor Maud Barlow to town, raising tens of thousands of dollars for numerous initiatives, including the fires at Fort Mac and our local food bank, as well as founding the CW Community Dinner Project. I'm proud of my career and my community work and the insights that they have provided for me. The one insight that has inspired me to run is that Centre Wellington holds the financial infrastructure responsibility for over over $200 million of infrastructure, and that is growing, while working with only 27% of our tax dollars. While the county luxury spends, Centre Wellington is left managing a very difficult infrastructure deficit. This tells me that the county has somewhat lost its focus. Their lack of a strategic plan, an archaic budgeting process, it hurts our community. Yes, on paper, the county is fiscally responsible, but that is actually to a fault, because the county is missing the purpose of what they are supposed to be doing. They are the second tier of government, and their responsibility is to support the lower tiers like us. Their purpose is to serve the ratepayers, our interests, and they are not. This is wrong, especially as we face challenging times with growth. It's time for a change. I would like to be your voice to bring those changes home. We need new leadership for our changing community. Vote Diane Ballantyne for Ward 6 County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. For County Ward 4, first to speak is Jake Bouwman.
Thanks again to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this evening, as well as the moderator for keeping the evening on good time. This evening we could listen in on a lively debate regarding our municipality. Who, whatever the issue, we could perceive an appreciation from the speakers regarding their various perspectives. In a democracy, we are given opportunity to engage with our elected representatives in evenings such as this. And so I thank you for coming to such an evening. We may not always agree with each other, but listening to other citizens' viewpoints may help us to refine our own opinion. May we continue to encourage and allow a spirited debate of the various issues. And yes, also to agree to disagree. Our national anthem reminds us that there is a greater power within the universe. We sing, "God, keep our land glorious and free." That should continue to be our motto, that indeed under God we can remain free. Free to live, work, and grow in this country, and to have evenings such as this. On October 22nd, I ask for your support so that I can represent you on County Council and give back to this community to which I am committed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Next to speak is Alan Hans.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest threat to the health of Wellington County and Centre Wellington is not personality conflicts between councillors, but your provincial government. They set the rules, and increasingly they're being set to achieve re-election, or some bizarre personal vendetta. Not always in the best interests of Ontario. We need a strong county council to work closely with our local MPPs to hold attention to this provincial government to ensure that your property taxes aren't asked to cover our ever more expenses locally while funds are withdrawn to invest in the GTA. If you remember anything from this debate, I want you to remember this. A house assessed at $500,000 in Toronto pays $3,200 in property taxes. For the few houses assessed at $500,000 in Centre Wellington, that same tax bill is $5,600. That's $2,400 more every year. Now, part of that difference is because of the benefits of greater density found in the city. But part of that difference is the political muscle that the city can pull when it's asking for money from the provincial and federal governments. The county needs to come up with a plan to counter that influence, or we'll be increasingly paying for our services here in Wellington and subsidizing those in the GTA. Such action is going to require a different kind of councillor than what we have elected in the past. A councillor who can energize others and lead the charge for change with tenacity and dogged determination. When you are given the opportunity to vote, I ask that you vote for Alan Hans. Vote for enthusiasm, vote for youth, vote for change. It's about time.
Thank you, Alan.
One more thing, if I may. Linda White is here. She is the current councillor for Ward 4 at the county level. She is retiring. It is her fault 6 people are running to replace her. But I would like to thank you for years of service, Linda.
Next to speak for County Ward 4 is Ross Chaulk.
guest Linda, thank you very much for your years of service. You've done a good job. Some people may tell you you have not, you have. Okay. Seniors make up a significant portion of the population, and each year as the population ages, we have more seniors that live on a fixed income. An increase in property taxes places an undue burden on them. As a past chairman of a finance committee, I have experience overseeing the budgeting process and have encouraged long-term forecasting and better departmental reporting. The end goal is to keep taxes to a minimum. Common sense needs to prevail. For Wellington County to grow and prosper, it will need guidance. I would like to offer my accounting skills and business abilities, along with my previous councillor experience, in order to make this happen. An opportunity exists for the residents of Wellington County to participate in the direction their county should take in the coming years. This opportunity is yours simply by exercising your right to vote. You, the voter, should look at all the candidates running for office and build the team that you think will produce the best results for Wellington County. Let each and every one of you have no doubt whatsoever, I would like you to vote for Ross Chaulk, Wellington County Council, Ward 4. For business sense, for common sense, for experience, vote Ross Chaulk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Next for County Ward 4 is Steve O'Neill.
Wellington County is a great place to live. I've been here over 50 years. But changes are coming to this county because people are going to move here because of our great experience of life here. And we must embrace the growth opportunity. The county road system, OPP services, county social services and housing, ambulance, and local libraries are some of the larger things that the county is responsible for. In the 2018 budget report, County Treasurer talks about the need for municipalities to be able to diversify revenue-based, instead of relying on property taxes. And he is correct. And I think everybody here's explained that or talked about it a bit. The new Wellington Place Child Care Learning Center is an example of getting upper tier money to support the majority of the funding for a needed county resource. Communication with upper tier to get additional revenue is crucial to bringing increases in revenue into line with what we spend. I'm available, I'm easy to approach, and I'll take your constructive criticism and ideas to council and the appropriate departments of the county. I'd be honored to serve as your Ward 4 representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next to speak is Penny Renken.
Ward 4 is composed of several communities, some larger than others. Each of these communities is very unique with their own strengths and concerns. Water is one necessary element that we need to protect, and the environment must be taken into consideration. Cooperation is also necessary for communities to move forward. We have cooperation between the communities, between the wards, and between the townships. It must continue and expand into as many programs as possible. While we should preserve the past, it doesn't mean that we should live in the past. Communities need to embrace the present and future and move forward with the trends that make businesses successful, including the ability to access up-to-date technology. In a survey for business retention and expansion, 51% of the businesses interviewed had trouble hiring. One reason being too few applicants and the lack of experience and skills. According to the Economic Development Strategic Plan from 2012, we can expect to accommodate 27,000 new residents and 11,750 new jobs by 2031. and I'm sure those numbers may have changed a little bit since 2012. It will be an exciting time to meet these challenges, fulfill employer requirements, and the required housing market within our localities. I mentioned previously that I'm a Girl Guide, and part of the Guide promise is to do my best. And that is what I'll do as County Councillor for the residents of County Ward 4. If I don't have an answer for someone's concern, or I don't know a council situation well, then I'll make sure that I learn. Then I'll be in a position to make informed decisions that will be for the benefit of the county, Ward 4, and you, the constituents. I'm asking for your support and vote in next month's election. I plan on being available to the constituents of County Ward 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Penny. Last to speak for County Ward 4 is Wayne Baker.
To cite an example of both infrastructure capacity and tax efficiency, I'd like to point out the Thibodeau intersection. The estimated cost to change the intersection from its former stoplight intersection to the new roundabout is almost $2 million. The former status of the intersection was functioning very well, which in my and many other opinions had not reached its capacity of functionality, hence infrastructure capacity. Had the county left the intersection as it was, there would have been an extra $2 million to use in a more effective manner, or perhaps allow for a slight decrease, or more likely a smaller increase in our mill rate next year, hence creating tax efficiency. I'm seeing trends to our taxation that are concerning. It's taken 164 years for our taxes to get to the level they are today. The county's 10-year budget projects a tax increase of slightly over 50% by the end of those 10 years. In other words, if your share of the county tax bill is $2,000 today, and it took 164 years to get there, your share will increase by $1,000, and it will only take 10 years to see that increase. This is the minimum increase possible, and is based on the assumption that the assessed value of your home does not increase. These are exponential numbers, and even if your income increases at the same exponential rate, your standard of living will be less in 10 years than it is today, because of a neat little fact that taxes are not tied to your cost of living. In closing, in my opinion, the way the system works is a lot like a fox asking a farmer if he can guard the hen house. In this analogy, you, the tax-paying public, are the farmers. We, the candidates, are the foxes, and the hen house is the tax dollars collected by the municipality. Your job is to pick the fox or the candidate you trust the most. I hope I've gained your trust. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wayne. First to speak for Township Ward 5 is Stephen Kitras.
I would like to thank the Chamber and the Legion for this event and for having democracy in action. I have expressed my strong desire for affordable and accountable for the future of Centre Wellington. Really though, people don't vote for someone just because of their platform only. Voters are thirsting for elected representatives that have integrity so they can trust them with their tax dollars and their very dear concerns about their services and community. Integrity starts with honesty. If an elected official isn't honest, you lose all credibility and trust. I am brutally honest with myself, and I got into politics not to deceive you, but only to serve you. That is why I corrected the municipality in 2017 when it missed its public communication that Nestle wanted private meetings to discuss the partnership proposal that it presented in late 2016. I gave this information to the Wellington Advertiser, CBC, and Gulf Tribune. 2 weeks later, the municipality announced that indeed we had closed meetings. Nestle offered a proposal 3 months earlier, but nothing was offered in return. This changed the position of the municipality from a semi-open fence sitting to Nestle to finally saying no to Nestle and preserving our water for our growth. In the end, I'm for integrity and experience, for responsible and accountable government, and that's what I stand for. Vote for Stephen Kitras for Ward 5.
Thank you, Steve. Next for Township Ward 5 is Kent Allison.
I had the privilege of observing the Allura All Candidates meeting from the back of the Legion Hall last week. And from my vantage point, a couple things became quite clear to me. Firstly, it seems that we're divided. Throughout the evening, there was an obvious leaning towards one candidate over the other. The clapping for one candidate was more impassioned, and the murmurs against their perceived adversary unfettered. But there was a moment near the end that epitomized the division I was feeling. It was a moment when everything shifted into slow motion for me as the details flooded into my eyes. One of the incumbents stood to make his closing remarks and marched through his words like a good soldier following the commands of his sergeant. As his talk was nearing a close, I turned my gaze to a group of his followers to my left, and their collective eyes opened wide as he finished. Their heavy applause echoed across the room, and I looked in front of me at another person vigorously join the fray, leaning towards the speaker as if he was about to lead in the standing ovation, because their perceived adversary was wounded. You see, before the incumbent stood to share his closing remarks, he had a choice. He had a choice of either presenting his ideas on how to build a stronger community or work the seeds of division deeper into the hearts of his adherents. Unfortunately, he chose the latter. This brings me to my second point. We can all do better. The role of a counselor is to represent the people in their ward and promote a harmonious local environment. I like to say that we are to be the bridge builders. We are the ones who, instead of leaning towards those we agree with, we choose to lean towards those we struggle to understand. It takes courage to do that. It takes courage to reach out to the other and welcome their point of view into the discussion, not viewing it as evil, but equal. As I said earlier, it's for this reason that I'm running, to bring back to council and the region a spirit of understanding, a heart of engagement, where unity can once again become our strength. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. First to speak for Township Ward 4 is Paul Whitaker.
In many ways, the story of Centre Wellington is only just beginning. Both Fergus and Allura have incredible tourist appeal. Our agricultural community is second to none, and the addition of the hospital and senior residences open up endless possibilities for health science collaborations with educational, tech, and private sectors. As a community, we need to ensure that we structure our growth not just to meet the Places to Grow Act, but beyond the 2041 target. As community leaders, we need to develop a voice for the voiceless, for those who experience isolation from the political process and enable them to participate effectively in a democratic process. It is this empowerment that creates the stimulus to achieve the type of community we all want and to protect against negative outside interests. The council has to have the public trust. We cannot be perceived as hiding information or pushing secret agendas. I propose that there be a mandatory 7-day review period for any item introduced to the council to ensure that we have time to digest the information and share it with you for feedback. So when we vote, it is with our conscience and not a rushed or artificial deadline. Our responsibility as councillors is to act as the checks and balances for the system in place within our community, and a responsibility that I hold sacred. Now, Fred is a hard act to follow. 15 years in the community service is a very, very long time. I hope that he will be a resource or mentor for me or one of the other people running for the continued betterment of Ward 4 and the greater community. I look forward to serving you as a Ward 4 councillor and keeping the conversation going because your opinion really does matter. I'll see you on the campaign trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next to speak for Township Ward 4 is Vinne Green.
Nice to talk to you all again. The biggest shock of the night for me is a 35% overhead on the management of the township in the last 4 years. Come on, seriously, these people are seeking re-election and they can't even control our money and our finances. 35%. That's 8.5% a year. Or 7.95, whatever. It's very important. So we're going to go to the future, we're going to expand, and we're going to grow the city, grow the township to be a small city. and it's going to cost us an absolute fortune. So we have to maintain control of that. The last time I ran for the election in Centre Wellington, I told you that the finances were going to be out of control. And I'll tell you now, Russ Spicer's sitting in the back there, and if he'd have run 4 years with 35% overhead over the top of everything, we'd have took him out to a field and lynched him. It's true, I'm telling you, it was quite erotic when we was in Bellwood, and he told us that overheads were going to go up, and we didn't listen. And now we're sitting here taking the pain, serious pain, and these people are asking us to re-elect him. So if it's 35% over 4 years now, what's it going to be in 8 years' time? What are we doing? You've got to control the money. If I went over 35% in my business, you people would all be on bikes with the airport. You'd be riding a bicycle. No, but seriously, you know, it's a lot of money. So good luck to everybody here, especially you two guys. And good luck to everybody else. And thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Vinne. Next for Township Ward 4 is Niel Dunsmore.
First off, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the Legion for hosting us tonight. There have been some battles that I've listened to over the last 4 years. I am a crisis conflict negotiator. I help businesses solve conflict and find common ground. I too am a little disappointed at the rhetoric that's going on in this community, and I just want to leave you with one thought. For every person that is against something, there is another person that is for it. Each councillor has to listen to every single constituent. Each council has somebody in their ear saying vote for this and somebody not to vote for this. They have to research the issue and find out what's best for our community and make the best decision they can. It's not personal when you lose a vote at council. It just means the people that voted the other way had people in their ear that wanted them to vote that way. There is always common ground, but one thing I know is the bickering doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help us as taxpayers, and it drives a wedge in the community. And that needs to stop. 50% of the economic growth in the county of Wellington is earmarked for Wellington, for the Township of Centre Wellington. We need to manage that growth properly. And we need to manage it based on every single economic sector in this township. People who can't afford housing need higher density housing. We need various levels of housing. And you need councillors that are willing to work together and have the hard discussions even when they disagree with each other, so that they do what's best for this community. You may not always agree with my decisions, but know this. I will research both sides, and I will make a decision that's best for this community. Thank you once again for your time.
For Township Ward 3, first to speak is Dean Workman.
Okay. Well, you know, as mentioned, I'm a specialty crop farmer. I'm actually a tradesman as well. I have my locksmith shop in Allura, which I'm never actually there. Yes, I'm a really busy guy. And however, during my short term in council, every single person who's contacted me, I've responded to them and done my best to serve them and look after their needs. And that will continue if I'm given the chance to continue. My dad told me when I was a kid, question everything. If you can't find the answer, follow the money. And during my time on council, I have not been afraid to ask sometimes what may be stupid questions, but I want to find out what's going on and I want to follow the money. Vision. I've wisely chosen CW as my home. My 3 children have been raised here. And I grew up, where I come from, I grew up in a rapidly growing tourist area. So I'm privy to what is coming. I've seen it. So I believe I bring a unique perspective to the vision of this community. I've seen the mistakes and I know what to look out for. If I'm given the chance to continue, I'll be the guy saying, waving the red flags, don't do that. You'll make a big mistake. It'll be stupid. So, It would be an honour if I could continue to serve you, and I'd really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Next for Township Ward 3 is Bob Foster.
It was the middle of hockey season, way back in 1975, and a sad group of young hockey players were moping around the dressing room in the old Fergus Arena. Not because they'd lost the game. They were sad because their hockey coach, Gordie Brown, had just told them that hockey season was over. And hockey season was over because the province had condemned the old Fergus Arena, right in the middle of hockey season. Now, those boys were thrilled a couple of years later when the Sportsplex opened. We thought we were playing in the NHL, but that excitement too was short-lived. The architect had made some design mistakes, and that trapezoidal roof on the Sportsplex was literally sliding off the building. And hockey season was canceled yet again. My friends, that was the end of my hockey career, but it was the beginning of my public service career. Those years playing hockey made me realize just how important community and public services are. And that is why I'm standing here tonight, to serve this community, to see that we have quality public services, to see that we manage growth carefully, to see that we preserve our heritage buildings. I'm standing here to see that we build nice neighborhoods, or avoid urban sprawl, and that we keep our taxes affordable. And most of all, I want to see to it that we never have to close an arena in the middle of hockey season ever again. My friends, I'm a 10-year member of this Legion. I've served as president of the Rotary Club, and I've served on the hospital board. I've served for 3 years in this role on Ward 3 Council. I've chaired the Rec Committee, and I've always pushed for careful spending of your tax dollars. I understand this community and the challenges we face. Ward 3 needs a strong voice at this table. For experience, for professionalism, for hometown service, vote Bob Foster for Ward 3 and Centre Wellington Township Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Last in Township Ward 3 speaking is Bruce Lloyd.
Personally, I'd like to thank Rocket Richard here. I'd like to take the opportunity to put something forward. Over the course of the last 6-8 weeks, I've heard we have tons and tons of studies gathering dust sitting on shelves. All it would take is for one council member to put their hand up and say, "I so move." And all of a sudden it's in discussion with a seconder. That didn't happen. As someone that has committed to run, I will not take this position lightly and will endeavor to serve the constituents. The next council has to look well beyond the next mandate and be prepared to leave their egos and single-purpose issues at the door before taking their seat at the horseshoe. Democracy will place the individuals at the horseshoe, and it is up to them to make the entire township their responsibility. I want to be one of those candidates, and I ask you to support me in that endeavor. Look me up on my website, Bruce Lloyd, Councillor, Ward3.ca, and I will be available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. First to speak for the mayor position is Fred Morris.
Well, first of all, thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. And thank you, Janet, and to the Chamber for putting on this event. As we close out this evening, let me just take a moment to talk about what I believe. You heard at the very beginning that getting it done is more important than what you believe. But really, folks, when it comes to political life, you need to know what your candidate believes, because what that person believes is ultimately going to mean that's what they're going to do. So I want to tell you just for a few minutes what I believe, because I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not just going to act and get things done so I can get reelected in 2022. I'm going to follow what I believe in my heart. So I believe this. I believe our residents deserve an honest and fair hearing when council is making important decisions. You are not squeaky wheels, and I will not treat you as such. I believe we need a community engagement charter. Town hall meetings should be interactive and not just for disseminating propaganda. I believe downtown Fergus is a forgotten corner in our community, and it's time to unleash the historical and economical potential of this urban center. I believe in positive, smart growth for this community. Growth should be beneficial to our community and not problematic. I believe our water is a public trust and must be protected and preserved for future generations. I believe we should preserve and build upon our small town feel. And I believe Centre Wellington needs more jobs. There is a right way and a wrong way to help create jobs, and I will do it the right way. If you believe what I believe, ladies and gentlemen, then vote Fred Morris Mayor on October 22nd.
Thank you, Fred. Kelly?
Thanks everybody for coming out, and thanks for the Chamber for hosting this. It's awesome to see the engagement and the people here. Tonight you've heard a lot of right words and a bunch of promises. Some of these promises have been with good intentions, others are just to get your vote. But what matters more to me is what you do. In 2014, I only promised what I knew I could deliver. I'm sticking to that. For example, the mayor has no ability to stop growth, but a good council can take real steps to make sure that we grow in the right ways. Your mayor, supported by an effective team of councillors, needs to continue to invest your tax dollars in what makes the most sense to the majority of you, rebuilding our infrastructure. This Winston Churchill quote sums up council's actions in the past 4 years. Sometimes doing your best is not good enough. Sometimes you must do what is required. We have been playing catch up. Prior to 2014, we had 8 years of ineffective budgets, large tax increases with only 5 bridges built, crumbling urban streets, and deteriorating rural roads. That is the definition of being overtaxed. And catching up we are. We are on track to rebuild 21 bridges in 2 terms of council, investing hundreds of thousands in our urban pavement management program and our rural roads rebuilding program. Over the past 3 years, we have reduced our operating budget increase to the lowest level since amalgamation so that we could invest in more infrastructure. The 2% bridge rebuilding levy will be reduced in 2021 and eliminated in 2022. You have my word. But we need to do more than this. We can't rely on just residential taxation. We need to bring more businesses to town to share the tax burden. Through our jobs and investment program, we've already reduced development charges by 65%, and we are seeing positive results. In the next 4 years, I will work with a new council to create at least 1 new business park, creating new jobs there. We'll establish CW's first ever youth council within 3 months of a new council. I've already spoken to 150 students about this idea. My track record speaks for itself. Thank you for taking the time to come out tonight, and thanks to the Chamber for hosting. I'll stick around and talk to you.
Thank you, Kelly. I've been corrected that there is 2 people that are running for the French Public School Board position, and although the one person is not here tonight, we respectfully do allow Pascale Thibodeau to have a closing statement, so I will ask her to do that now.
Thank you very much. I know you're probably itching to stretch your legs. And once again, les derniers seront les premiers, as we say in French. I just want to encourage anyone who has themselves, their children, or their grandchildren been through the French school. It is important that you check your voting ballot, that you are voting indeed for the French School Board. As much as you have great candidates in the English board, is that otherwise we don't get the opportunity to hear your voice, and you don't get to see my name on the ballot. So thank you very much for this evening. We are small, but we must remain mighty, our community, our French community, as for generations to come. I think that we can all say that we bring a little something to each community. I am representing a very large territory of Waterloo, Wellington, Middlesex, Perth, and Huron. And some people might think, what am I doing here tonight? Well, I think that small and big need to be represented. And I think it was an honor to be here at Ferguson tonight. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great night.
Thank you. So that ends the closing statements. I just would like to say I'm rather excited of the number of people vested in the community of all ages that are out in the audience, as well as all the people that are sitting up here, that it shows what kind of a community we're in if we have so many people that are running for the positions. I thank the candidates for staying to the time frame, and I thank the public for being respectful of the candidates, that I didn't have to follow our Honourable Ted Arnott in some of the antics he's had this past week. So.
The preceding program was brought to you by Whiteman TV and Bruce Telecom.